The U.S. State Department has given El Salvador a major upgrade in its annual human rights and governance rankings. But at the same time, troubling reports are emerging that U.S.-bound immigrants passing through the country are disappearing, without explanation and without accountability. El Salvador has been under international scrutiny in recent years, especially under the leadership of President Nayib Bukele. His administration has drawn criticism for its crackdown on gangs, which, while popular domestically, has raised alarms about mass arrests, secret detentions, and human rights abuses. Despite this, the U.S. government recently adjusted El Salvador's classification in several areas, giving the country improved marks on security, governance, and cooperation. This move surprised many observers, especially given the ongoing concerns about civil liberties and the country's treatment of migrants. El Salvador is a key transit country for migrants from South America and the Caribbean who are heading north toward the United States. With stricter border enforcement in Mexico and the U.S., many migrants are forced to take longer and riskier routes, often relying on smugglers or local contacts to pass through Central America. In recent months, reports have surfaced that migrants who entered El Salvador, particularly those without proper documentation, have vanished without a trace. Families have spoken out, saying their relatives were last heard from after crossing into the country. Local NGOs and human rights groups say the number of missing people has quietly increased, but getting answers has been difficult. Some believe the disappearances could be linked to organized crime, which continues to operate despite Bukele's harsh anti-gang policies. Others fear government involvement or at least complicity, suggesting that migrants may be being detained or deported in secret, or worse, falling victim to violence with no investigations to follow. The lack of transparency makes it hard to know exactly what's happening. Salvadoran authorities have provided few updates and rarely comment on individual cases. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department's upgrade of the country raises questions about whether political priorities are outweighing human rights concerns. Why would the U.S. upgrade El Salvador now? One theory is that the Biden administration is rewarding the country for its cooperation on immigration enforcement. The U.S. has increasingly leaned on Central American nations to slow the flow of migrants heading north. If El Salvador is seen as playing a role in that effort, whether through detentions, removals, or discouraging passage, it might be getting praised for effectiveness, regardless of how that effectiveness is achieved. Critics argue this sends the wrong message. Rewarding governments while migrants disappear undermines U.S. credibility on human rights and humanitarian issues. It also risks creating a precedent where migration control becomes more important than the safety and dignity of the people involved. On the ground, the situation remains tense. Families are still searching for missing loved ones. Journalists trying to investigate these cases have been met with silence or resistance. And international organizations are urging both the U.S. and El Salvador to be more transparent about what's really happening to migrants in transit. This story highlights a growing contradiction in U.S. foreign policy, one that balances cooperation on immigration with values like democracy and human rights. As more attention turns to El Salvador, the pressure will mount for both governments to explain what's happening and why. For now, the upgrade may be official on paper, but behind the scenes, questions remain unanswered. And for many families, that upgrade means very little when their loved ones are still missing.